Yo, what's up, guys? And welcome back to the Beer Gardeners, where we do reviews on alcohol and all alcohol things related. Today, we're doing a wine review. So, I got two special guests. Introduce yourselves, guests.
It's your boy Champagne PP. I review a lot of alcohol, including beers, whiskeys, and wine.
What's going on, fellas? I'm Eric Lee, and I'm of Eric Lee Parodies. I do a lot of comical skits.
Me and Eric. Not Eric, this Eric. Which
What?
Eric with the C.
What?
Have known each other for going on like 3-4 years already. And so, when I used to live in my old apartment before I moved into a house, Eric came over and was checking out my t-shirt setup and my game setup and everything, my green screen setup that I had. And he brought me this bottle. Not this exact bottle, but this wine here.
Imagine if it was that exact bottle.
I know.
Just like refilled it.
Resealed it. Resealed it.
Fuck, bro.
But this one here,
Yeah.
I'll let Eric do the little description of it.
So this is a limited edition Roscato sweet red wine. It is really good. It's a Provincia de Pava. This is really, really good. It comes from northern Italy, and has a very fruity texture to it. It's really sweet. It's really good, especially if you like red wine and you want to try it. I recommend starting off with stuff like this. It's a mix between rosé and Moscato together, so it's really, really good. You want to dive into it?
What year is it?
This year, I don't know. I think honestly, no, not on this one. I don't think so. But this is really good. It's like it tastes like cherry and mixed berry together. Really, really good. Doesn't have any nutty notes. But I do highly recommend it if you're a first time wine drinker.
Right.
I like wine.
It's
Yeah.
the first time.
Yeah, it's actually really good. It's fruity. It's a starter. I think, like, to me personally, it's a starter wine. So I really do like it. I recommend it actually, especially if you're gonna take it to somebody's house. It's something you want to take as a gift. It pairs really good with pastas or meats in general. Any type of red meat. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff.
Was this your first wine? Or?
This was not my first wine. My first wine was actually a Merlot.
A Merlot. Oh, okay.
Merlot. So I do like Merlot. I kind of like the semi-sweet, dry, those things. I really enjoy those type of wines. So it's really good, especially.
Well, this isn't a Merlot, right? This is
not. This is a Roscato. It's a mixture of they call it Dolce, which is sweet red wine. So it's really, really good. It does come from Italy, and it's very inexpensive. It's less than $10.
Less than $10.
Yeah.
Snap.
Yeah.
$11 to be exact.
Yeah. Okay, so $11 with taxes.
Yeah.
But highly recommended. It is called Roscato. You can find it at your local HEB or your local winery.
So, I really enjoyed it. I get this bottle quite a bit. This is one of my top, I would say top 3, top 5. But because I'm still opening my palate to wines, but as far as when it comes to reds in general, because I just love the branding of this because it's one of the simplest, and I think that wines in general are getting too flashy with their labeling. And so with their little star that they got going on here, it's plain and simple, and it gets to the point. Not too overdone, not too underdone, but just enough. And the branding on it, I think, is amazing. So just wanted to point that out because I'm all about the way that it's on outside.
Yeah. It's when it comes down to it, it's all about the taste and texture of the wine. You don't want a wine that's very uncomfortable for you. You just want one that suits you. And this one doesn't necessarily have good legs, which is what Squirrel is doing. He's giving it a swirl. The legs on it are very simple. They're very broad around the glass. It's not a wine that you would roll, which means, rolling it along a napkin to see the texture of the legs, or the texture of the wine, rather. But it is, like I said, it's a good starter wine, especially if you're barely starting to drink wine. This is highly recommended, but we'll let these guys be the judge of what it tastes like to them. The first impression.
So what is it like?
So that's kind of fancy. You'll see people with these huge fishbowl glasses, and they will smell the wine, and they'll put their face in there and sniff it, and they're like, "Oh, the grapes are exquisite." You know, you don't. It's for show. It really is for show. A wine connoisseur would tell you that they'll just pop open the bottle, smell the cork, admire the aroma, pour it, sip it, swish it around, and just kind of enjoy the flavor, the aroma that it gives off, especially if it's been soaked in oak or hickory for years on end. So, or aged wine, which is what makes it more expensive, and that's why you see the lower dates like a 2015 or 2014. It's more expensive. So, yeah.
God damn, you really don't fuck me up on my wine reviews. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Why do you think I always have Eric when I do things on wine? When I did the ranking.
Wine is really good. Now, I'm not an expert. These are things that I've learned over the years, and from Total Wine and More off of the forum, they've given me a lot of formal education here in San Antonio. So, and friends and family, of course, that drink wine as well. But yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on the show, and I like to, expound on the knowledge that I've been given. So, yeah.
Total Wine, if y'all want to sponsor my channel, please feel free to.
Yeah, most definitely.
I get everything.
Most definitely. These are good reviews. These are honest reviews, especially because like me and David known each other, but we haven't known Eric that long, and he doesn't drink wine. He drinks other things, but
some girly things.
No.
Like
I mean, like he
seltzers.
drinks in general to enjoy himself. What do you think?
What?
What do you think?
The wine?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the wine is actually really sweet. It
Sweet, right?
Yeah. It doesn't hit you at the top of the palate. It comes in smooth and leaves out smooth. There isn't any
There's no aftertaste.
aftertaste. Exactly. Yeah.
But it doesn't taste like medicine or anything
No,
like that.
it doesn't taste like like what people envision wine to be. It's like this weird, bitter, grapish flavor. No, it's really sweet. It's really sweet.
Yeah, most definitely. So the difference between a lot of red wines is there's dry and there's sweet. Sweet is actually sweet. It tastes like a grape. When you bite into a grape, you get the juice. It's sweet, but it leaves a tiny bit of bitterness because of the skin that's around the grape. But this one in general is nothing but juice. It's not more along the lines of skin. You're getting a lot of the juice in here, so it's really, really good.
That's really good.
One thing I gotta say about this is that it's not grapey, and that's my favorite thing. Is that it doesn't taste like if somebody just poured Welchers in a cup.
Right.
It actually it has a little bit more class to it than that.
Yeah, it's not your average
Yeah.
Manchester Passover wine. So excuse me about that, but it's not your average Passover wine. Which, if you've ever tried Concord or Manchester, those are your Passover wines that you would have at a Catholic mass when you're taking communion. Those are the wines that they use for Passover. But these wines are not recommended for Passover. So this is a Moscato and a Rosé. So you're gonna get a hint of acidity as soon as you touch it to your lips. You're gonna taste bubbles. You're gonna get that carbonated texture to it. So I mean that's what it is in general. But it's really, really good. It's slippery on the tongue. It's not very bitter.
It is really slippery on the tongue.
Yeah, it's really good. Something if you ever, fellas, especially to you guys, us guys, we're always trying to impress a girl. If she does drink, I recommend this bottle first because it's sweet, especially if she doesn't drink wine. But to impress her just a little bit, pick up a bottle of Roscato. It's really, really good, and I highly recommend it. Good stuff.
Yeah. So if you want to get laid, this is what you drink.
There you go. Yeah. And
No,
it's really good stuff. It is from Italy. It's a good brand. It's really good. Yeah. I don't recommend cooking with it. Don't cook with it. Red wines you can cook with it, of course, with your beefs if you want to spritz it or marinate your steaks or whatever. This I do not recommend because it is a rosé and a Moscato that have been fused together. So I don't recommend doing that with meat. Leave it out because it'll dry up pretty bad.
Yeah, so don't play with your meat.
Yeah, don't play with definitely with meat.
I want some more. We're probably gonna kill this bottle right now, by the way.
Oh yeah, most definitely because it is really good, especially among dudes. It's sweet. We just had a couple of beers.
A couple.
Just a couple of beers for keep it a PG. Keep it a PG for the.
If I can choose between wine and wine and anything else, I'm gonna choose wine. Sorry.
That seems easy.
And maybe some Jack Daniels.
Oh yeah, most definitely. We need to do a whiskey review.
We need to. He doesn't like Jack Daniels. That's why.
Review. What? Yeah, you down? Rye whiskey. The difference between rye whiskey and regular Tennessee whiskey. Irish whiskey.
Irish whiskey is the dominant whiskey. Don't say bourbon is.
No.
Oh, no, don't say
You
bourbon.
cannot compare bourbon.
To
No.
So let's
Yeah. So we're not talking just Jameson.
oh yeah.
Okay, that's
Don't
what
go
I'm gonna
there.
say. Like,
Wait,
don't go there.
let's
Don't go there. Don't go there.
but let's also not go to Jack Daniels.
it's just because it's the go-to. It's
Yeah,
convenient.
it's convenient.
It's the go-to. If I feel like spending a little bit more money, I'm gonna spend a little bit more money. But if I want to spend like a quick $20, like I'm just gonna go and
Shop around. Don't just stick to the name brands because people will be like,
Oh, yeah.
hey, you ever heard of Jameson? Hey, you ever take a shot of Jameson? Stop.
Jameson is my shot go-to.
It's good to party with.
Yeah.
But if you want to enjoy whiskey, do some research. You know, it's sometimes whiskey's not for everybody.
There's a lot of good whiskeys out there.
There's lots of good whiskey. Personally, I've tasted some very expensive whiskey. I didn't like it. Honestly, did not. I've tasted some very expensive bourbon. I really loved it. I tasted some cheap bourbon, hated it. You know, so it's a love and hate relationship. So I did have a thing for Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey honey. That I can drink half a bottle of.
I hate it.
For some reason, I just love the taste, the texture is so velvety. The way they portray the honey into that whiskey is phenomenal. It's really good.
Are you stupid?
I love it. I love it. I would choose it over Jim Beam honey.
Oh, dude, Jim Beam is fucking trash, dude. Jim Beam
Exactly.
honey,
That's what I'm saying.
the pure sugar
man, I hate both of y'all.
sugar, dude.
I'm split.
Shout out to
between
Jim Beam though. Make sure you sponsor us.
Yeah, sponsor
So we
us.
don't hate as
Sponsor
much.
the. Yeah.
Wieners are no. No, but no. On a serious note, Jim Beam does not carry out that honey taste. It just tastes like whiskey or some hard alcohol with some make believe honey.
Yeah. I definitely.
I just honestly believe that
Trash.
Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey honey has carried out the honey flavor. That's just my opinion.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving this a 6.
Yeah,
God damn.
I can work with the 6. I could work with the
It's
6.
my top 5, but I've tasted since I started this channel, I've tasted so many wines since then, and it is in my top 5 because I just enjoy it. But there's still a shitload more wines that taste so much more better than this.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of sweetness.
But it's not overdone.
It underlies the appealing of the charming wine. So, like I said, it's a beginner's wine. It's not that expensive. It's less than $12.
Yeah.
Less than $12. You can find it at your local winery, HEB, if you're in San Antonio, Walmart. But it is called Roscato. It's good stuff. It really is.
No, I give it a 6 out of 10.
4.
A 4.
Okay.
I like drier. I
You have dry
Okay.
wine?
I really love dry wine. Yeah.
Okay.
I love good Cabernets. Yeah.
I want to go with a 5. Only because I've tasted so many wines, and this could be so much better if it was just a bit more aged. You can taste too much of the.
It's grainy.
Yeah.
I get that all the time when I drink this
Right.
specific one. It has like a grainy like. It's hard
Yeah.
to explain because you don't get it in a lot of wines, but it tastes
No,
like
No,
if
but
it was aged a little bit more longer.
and you gotta drink it really cold. as well. Right now it's kind of room temperature. Wine, if you guys know a lot about wine, certain wines have to be a certain temperature in order to enjoy the full effect, the full embodied flavor rather of a good wine. If not, you're gonna get a bland taste or something flat or something sour, and then that's gonna turn you off.
Yeah.
In general, it's gonna be like, I just don't like wine. Because I mean, some people have been like that. They tasted wine, but they never tasted it at the recommended temperature. It does have a factor. It really does.
And that's where I messed up. Before I started drinking wine, I thought I hated wine, but it's just because, like Eric said, I drank it at the wrong temperature, and also the shit that I tasted was just really cheap, fucking cheap, like stupid cheap wine, and it just wasn't enjoyable. But I'm not saying that cheap wines are bad, aren't good, but it just spend that extra $5-10.
When it all comes down to it, it all has the same effect. The more you drink, the more I guess tipsy you get. You know, I mean, not all of them have the exact same alcohol content. Like this one has 7. Some of them have 11.5, 17. I've seen. It really just depends, and price, yes, does make a difference. It really does, because you can literally taste the difference between a $12 bottle of wine versus a $283 bottle of wine. Most definitely. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, they cost around that much. Sometimes they're just a tad bit bigger than this, and you're paying $280 for it.
Alright, well, that's all the time we got for y'all today. I'll leave the links to both of their channels down below so y'all can check them out. Really great content coming out of these guys. Subscribe, like, comment, all that good shit. All in this area here. Links in the description. As always, have fun, stay safe, and don't fucking drink and drive, idiots.
Yeah,
Alright, see y'all
let's not do
later.
that.
Bye.
Let's not do